Did I click it? I clicked it. Yay! Yay! Okay, we're doing it. We're doing it. Okay, Alisha, hi.
Now we're doing it.
We're doing it. I feel so official. Hi. Thank you for doing this with me with my very first episode. Really quick. So I'm super excited because I want to look back in a year from now. Okay, this is my goal. I'm putting it out there. I want to look back in a year from now and be like, this was the episode. This is how I did it. This is the way I was acting. Look at my like mannerisms. What would like, and I want to grow from this. So like, we're getting started. We're doing it. But like, I just want to apologize for all the weirdness that's going to happen because I'm a little nervous.
No, I love it. You're going to look back and be like, look at how brave I was. You're just jumping in. That's so great.
I feel like I'm jumping in, but like when you don't know how to dive in the pool, so you're just like, ah! Like you splash everywhere. You come out, you're all red. You're like, that wasn't the best way to do it. But like, whatever. Yeah. So how are you? How's your morning? I'm so glad that our nap schedules align so we can jump on at the same time. Although the email failed.
Time change has been horrible for us.
Oh my God. Yeah.
We've been talking about this and it's like, we just got into a good routine, right? We finally feel like, okay, I have at least one nap I can count on. I have bedtime I can count on. Like certain times, you're like, all right, now it's me time. And then suddenly she wakes up at like 5:30 and is like, good morning, I'm awake. And I'm like, no, what is this? And it hasn't changed for like a week. She's stuck on this, and I mean, it makes sense. Her body's on a cycle and she doesn't know the time, but
I feel like that's the whole, like literally the big definition of motherhood. Like as soon as you're like, you know what? I figured this out. Like, okay, I know where to put her to sleep. And then like the next week they start crawling and you're just like, now you don't stay in place. What do I do now? And then you learn that stage and then they're walking. You're like, I just had this figured out, but now you're doing this other thing and you're just evolving and changing. And it's kind of makes you appreciate to take things like day at a time because you can't assume they're going to be that way tomorrow. You're like, oh, well, she takes her nap at 3 and 7. It's like, well, the next day there's a tummy issue. They're constipated. The weather is weird. So it's giving them, you're just like, oh, it doesn't work that way. You can't almost plan for tomorrow. Yeah. What's the saying? Like when you plan, God laughs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, that's what the baby's teaching you. It's like, well, you had this plan. You were going to do this.
Flexibility is like key, man.
Yeah.
It's hard when you're a like type A person who likes certain things at certain ways. And then it's like, jokes on you.
Yes. This has been my like biggest concern and anxiety when planning this whole podcast. Because I'm like, okay, well, I want to talk to these moms. I want to share these stories. And I want to make sure that I give the time to this conversation. And then in the back of my mind, I'm just like, how do I schedule this? Because her naps are changing. Yes. Yes. I'm so excited.
Are on complete opposite schedules from the conversations that it sounds like we've had. Like they're like, yours is a night owl and mine is now a morning bird. And I'm like, no.
Oh my gosh.
Let's party at night.
Yeah. Well, no, you don't want that either. Because mine's been staying up till now 12:30. So now with the time change, she was going to bed at 2:30 in the morning. Now with the time change, she's going to bed at 12:30 and then up at 10. So, but I feel like she's really late. Whereas I'm talking to other moms, like yours is taking her first nap where literally mine just woke up.
Yeah.
So like,
but she's up later in the night. So it makes sense. Like,
yeah, at least she's getting good sleep.
Yeah. There you go. That's all that matters. Whatever works for y'all. Like, as long as she's sleeping at some point and she's happy when she's awake, it works out. And you're okay and like getting sleep that you need.
Yeah. I'm really grateful for our schedule. Something that I was really concerned about, like with the first maybe 5 or 6 months, because you see all these like moms and experts who are like, this is the schedule your baby should be doing. This is the amount of sleep it should be doing. And I would see those videos, read the information. I'm like, what the heck am I doing wrong? Like my baby only slept for 30 minutes today. So now she's not getting the full sleep bank. Therefore, she's not going to sleep later tonight. And like, I would just get so wrapped up in her not meeting those standards of, granted, knowing like, of course, every baby's different, but you try to attain this schedule that
I
everyone's
love it.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And then I'm starting to settle in, just knowing that like she's sleeping well. Whatever our schedule is, my baby's getting full sleep, and that's all that should matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And something I'd read one time that made so much sense, because in those first couple months, you're reading all the things, you're listening to
Yeah.
all the things, like what should I be doing, but following the baby's cues and noticing they are just a little human, and some people don't sleep that often.
Yeah.
Some people are like, I'm good when I'm up for X amount of time. And then some people, like my husband, is like, I need my sleep, And people are different. So babies are going to be different. It makes so much sense once you put it into that aspect of like, they are just tiny little people, and people don't have a set rigid routine every single day when they fall asleep perfectly and they slept exactly 2 hours and then they woke up exactly 3 hours. Like, it doesn't work like that. So
That's
our
so
girls are
true.
party animals. That's all there is to it. I think
Yeah.
it's very clear. Our two have been rocking these like crap naps, as they call them, for like 30 minutes to an hour since they were newbies. And
I used to call them joke naps. So like as soon as she would, especially when she was like 3 months, 4 months, like she would go down for sleep. I'm like, yes, I got her down. I got about, 30 minutes to an hour to like, I don't know, switch out laundry, take time for myself. And then she'd wake up within 5 minutes. I'm like, jokes. That was jokes. We're doing joke naps. That's great.
Ellie has started this thing where she starts dozing in my arms as I'm rocking her, and she's like getting good. And I'm like, okay, this is where we're about to transfer. Everything's going to be good. And then all of a sudden she pulls the pacifier out, throws it, laughs, and blows a raspberry on my face. And I'm like, oh, we're really into joking right now, aren't we?
They're really funny.
It's fun.
Babies are really funny. Like sometimes, like with Paisley, she'll do something and I'm like, do you know how funny you are? Like, and that's when you can see that they are really tiny humans. They're not just this baby that like, so I often feel bad sometimes because she's not walking yet or like moving herself around or gets to choose things. And so I'm like, I'll try to read what she wants to do, if she's still interested in this play area or if she wants to move around. And then I'm like, do you want to move? Do you want to keep playing? Like, I still can't get information. And I feel bad. I'm like, you don't get to choose yet what you do. Like, I just carry you.
A good mom for thinking about her like that, and thinking like, I think so many people don't think like that. And they're just like, baby needs to be here because I'm here and this is what I'm doing. And the babies adapt. They do. But like, the fact that you're thinking about what she wants and stuff is so great. Like, she is gonna be so amazing and independent whenever she starts moving, because she's gonna be like, my mom has showed me all the cool things. I know I can go over here. I choose to do this. And Ellie, we had told you whenever she first started like walking, she's still like, I can get around faster crawling. And so
they book it when they crawl. Like, they go. I'm like, where'd you get that speed? I was like, 2 weeks ago, you were kind of rotating like on her tummy, just like, and I can go to the bathroom. I knew she was right there. And then now she just goes. And I'm like, dang it, where'd you go?
Where did you go?
Yeah.
I looked back at the videos of when we were so excited when she started crawling, and it was literally like 1, 2, 3, and then just like Superman. And I'm like, when did it change from that to just like racing at me? And I'm like, running away,
so fast. And literally the only way I can talk about it and remember it, but it doesn't really sink in unless I see that video where I'm just like, that same thing. Like, she was lifting her booty kind of like, a few months ago, like maybe lifting one leg. And I was like, yes, she's ready. She's almost crawling. And it was nowhere near where she's at now. But I was like, she's almost there. I can see it. And then now it's like, it just doesn't even compare.
Yeah. Girl,
and so
I've got a quick funny story for you about that. Looking back at videos and stuff, it's so great, because you're like in a different mindset at that time and you're in a fog. You don't even remember that beginning time, really. Yeah. But looking back at the videos, it's, makes it real again. We looked back at the first couple of weeks of Ellie being, in our home and figuring everything out. And my husband, at 7 days old, It's like, babe, check it out. And he's recording it. Ellie here is learning how to roll over already. And he's literally like helping her roll. And she's just like, boom. And she cries. And he's like, yes, you did it, baby girl. You're so good. And we look at it and we laugh so hard now because we're like, what were you like? You were in a different fog. First of all, you were like, I'm going to make her crawl and then she's going to, or I'm going to help her roll and then she's going to crawl and then she's going to walk and she's 7 days old. And I'm like, babe, it's just a different world. You know, now we look at her actual rolling video and we're like, that's so different than what we thought at the time.
Yeah.
Had to be there, but it was.
No, that's exactly how it is. I used to have Paisley like on the bed and would kind of like move her legs. Like and I was like, she's army crawling. Like she was maybe a month and I was like, she's doing it. She's so advanced. And now when she finally started army crawling, I was like, I can see how it's different. I can see how way off I was. Oopsies.
I love it.
It made me think of, you earlier mentioned how the babies adapt, like if the mom's doing something and the babies adapt. And then before that, we kind of mentioned that like what motherhood is, you know, it's constantly changing. And I frequently think about this, that like, so we adapt so well as mothers, like whatever just happens, now we go with it. Now they're crawling, now we go with it. They're opening cabinets, we figure it out. Now they're doing this, we figure it out. Like, and the babies do the exact same thing. And this is where I struggle with all of the like experts and the things that people say. So I'm not as comfortable with like let's say the cry out method. For some reason, it just like, I'm just not comfortable with it. I totally understand it. And I think it helps so many moms. And I totally understand it. It's just like it's not something that we did. It just, I couldn't do it. And the way that I had reasoned in my mind, which is probably wrong, but like, if you do train the baby to do that, of course they'll adapt because we all adapt. But then I'm like, well, do I want her to adapt to that? Because it's like, whatever you do show your babies like that, then they do learn that. And so I just I struggle knowing what is good to teach them and what is not, because they'll adapt either way. Mm-hmm. And then I'm constantly in the stage of like second guessing myself. I'm like, well, now she does this. And then I'm like, is that good?
I get it. I get it 100%. I think, like you said earlier, you think you have it down and then it changes. I think that is another theme of motherhood, of like second guessing ourselves. And something that I struggle with and constantly tell myself is like, follow your mama gut. Like, you've got to trust your intuition. And that first thing you thought is probably what is right, you know? And then we adapt and we change and we say, okay, maybe I was being a little too hard that time, or maybe I was being too soft that time. But I am in the same boat. We are not into the cry it out. Of course, we know our baby now. And so we know like the difference between her fussing and her crying. That took me a minute to be like, oh, she made sound. I've got to go get her. And, yeah. And then it was like, no, she's trying to settle. And so, you know, you just learn and you start learning them and know what works for them. And it's interesting to see how they quickly like catch on to like, if I throw this pacifier out, she's going to come running and check this out, you know? And they learn us just as we're learning them. And we're in the same boat with the whole, like, still trying to figure out what is best for her. Because in my eyes, I'm like, she's not even a year yet. Like, I can't reason with her yet and explain to her why you need to sleep in your own bed, or, you know, and some things work great for some people and some things don't work great for other people. And so like, I love all the advice and the options out there, but I think it's really important to be like, what's working for y'all, and do that. Because if you find something that works, like, you don't need to switch it up because an expert told you this is what they should or shouldn't be doing, you know?
And that kind of goes along with the fact that, like, again, every baby's different. And like you mentioned, they have different sleep schedules. Like, I haven't really thought about it before, but Jake used to stay up till 4 a.m. Like, that's just what he did. That's just what he does. And I would rather go to bed at 10 p.m. and wake up at like 7 and like get my day started or, go in the garden. And we're just very different that way. And it makes sense that, of course, Paisley being in the middle of us, she might take on one or the other, which seems like she's taking on the night owl, at least for now. Yeah. And that's something like I need to keep repeating to myself because sometimes, I'll think like, okay, well, if I'm cold, she's probably cold. Or, if I'm sleepy, she's probably sleepy because we've been up at the same time. And then I have to remember, like, she's her own person. What if she likes being a little bit colder? What if she doesn't want to wear a hat? Like right now, actually her whole life so far, she doesn't like to wear like bows or hats or anything. And everyone's like, put a hat on her. I'm like, you try to put a hat on her. Like, good luck. And so I go, again, it's this whole thing of like second guessing yourself where I'm just like, maybe she's cold. Let me, like, when she was a baby, I would be running after her, putting these socks on her. I'm just like, babe, let's put socks on her. Like Jake will tell you jokes where I'm like, socks. Let's put socks on her. Her feet are cold. Yeah. And then later you just kind of like, she just didn't like socks. She doesn't want them on her feet. It was similar with, at least for us. Well, okay. So I have two opinions. I have two schools of thoughts about this next thing. She never liked to be swaddled. She didn't like it when she was born. The nurses tried to swaddle her. She got out. The doctor tried to swaddle her. She got out. Grandma's tried to swaddle her. She got out. I tried to swaddle her. She got out. And then people kept telling me, like, just swaddle her. She'll sleep better. I'm like, she doesn't like to be swaddled. She wants her arms out and that's the way she sleeps actually better. And then everyone's like, no, you're wrong. And so I was like, no, I think I'm right. And then I saw some expert advice who said, if you think that your baby doesn't like to be swaddled, stick with it because you're just doing it wrong. And then this lady like showed this great way of swaddling, and she had these like, it's like a blanket where the arms go through. So then they're kind of like, it's like a crazy jacket. And then the
things out there.
And then I'm like, well, maybe I didn't stick with it. Maybe I should have stuck with it and it would have been different. So now I don't really know. Although she still sleeps with like her arms out. Like she just wants to.
Ellie is exactly the same.
Yeah.
The arms. It was somehow an arm always escaped. And it's because she at the time wanted to have a hand over her face. This is how she was in the womb, or like this, just a hand on her face.
Drama.
Yeah. Or she would just kind of be like, I'm holding my nose, but I see you, and she just always wanted a hand out. And it was the same situation. And we did it for a while. We did the swaddle. It was like, bedtime routine, like, hurry, get the swaddle. I just got her out of the bath. We got to do all the things. And then it suddenly, she started rolling and she was pissed because she wanted to move. And she's like, I can't move. And so we kind of just we followed her cues, I think following your baby's cues is what's best for your baby and for you. And if she was saying, I don't want to swaddle, don't do the swaddle. And then it feels, I was in the same boat of like, well, maybe I did it wrong. Maybe this, maybe I should have tried this other one, this like weighted one that they can't move. Yeah. But then would I have delayed her moving and grooving, because she is very movie groovy, Yeah. So I don't know if one would have been better than the other. So whatever you did work, you got through it. She slipped, Yeah. And so, yeah.
That's where I feel like I try to put myself in the baby's position, which I don't know if it's the right thing or the bad thing. Because sometimes I'm like, well, she's a baby. She doesn't feel that way. And then sometimes I'm like, if I was just laying there and I'm a potato and I can't like move myself, I can't go anywhere, I can't choose what I'm doing, and you just have to like stare. I would never just want to stare at the ceiling or like stare at nothing. I'd want to like at least see something. I'd want to be close to the people I know. Like if you can't walk or do anything, what would make a situation better? And so when putting her in these swaddles and she didn't want to, it didn't seem like she wanted to be in them. I'm like, I wouldn't want to be restricted. Everyone says like, they feel more comfortable that way. They feel safer. And I'm like, she doesn't look more comfortable. She seems like she wants to be out.
I think that can work for people who are like wanting to be able to put their baby down and be like, mama needs a break. I need to be able to put her down. So you have something similar to the feeling of your, belly holding her in or your
Yeah.
arms holding her in. But for you and I think we've talked about this, like it's fine for us to be able just to hold him. And like we're very fortunate to be able to be home and have flexibility to stay up until 3 a.m. if you have to and sleep in till 10 if you have to. But what you're doing is perfect for her. Like she wants to feel held and comforted. And whether that's from a swaddle or from mom's arms, you're providing that for her regardless. So don't worry about what the experts say.
That's why I totally understand like the sleep training for people who have to get up at 5 a.m. and they have to go to work. They have a schedule they have to like attend to. And if I had to be at work and she was staying up till 3 a.m, it would be extremely hard. Like I remember the newborn days where that first month you just don't sleep and you're like, everyone's like, sleep when the baby sleeps. I'm like, first of all, I got other things I need to do. Second of all, I can't just fall asleep.
Shower.
Yeah, just anything. Yeah. But like during the day, I can't just like fall asleep, wake up, there's all these things that are going on. And then at night you're kind of worried. And then are they breathe? Like it's a constant just worry. You're living in this worry for the first month and you're just tired and exhausted. But like there's few days where I was just feeling so defeated because I was so tired. And so if I had to be in that mindset and go to work and then feel overwhelmed because then you're working, you feel bad you're missing out, and then you come home and the baby's tired, is missing you, and just like it would be so much more pressure. Yeah. And so to develop our sleep routine in that situation makes sense because then it's better for the mental health of the mom, which is in the end is going to be better for the baby. Because if you're upset, if you're anxious, if you're anything, the baby feels it. Like
for sure.
The baby knows right. I read this study. I didn't like how they did this study because they like attached wires to the baby and the mom. And I was like, I don't know, freaks me out, but I'm kind of glad they did it, I guess. So I don't know.
The sleep study?
It wasn't the sleep study. It was the heart rate study where they found that mom and the baby, their heart rate sinks when they're in the same room. So when they're apart, they could be different. But as soon as the mom and the baby are together, your heart rate actually syncs with your baby. And this was one of the most like fundamental things I learned, because then there were certain times where I was like, I think she's like anxious and unhappy. And people are like, no, she's fine. And I'm like, no, like there's something inside of me that feels like she's just not, there's something wrong. And it's literally your baby talking to your heart when they are anxious and their heart rate rises because there's something that's just uneasy. It tells your heart, it signals your heart to let you know, because you sink in, to let you know something's up. Like you literally communicate and they talk straight to your heart.
That's really awesome.
It's the most like just
thing. And it goes the other way too, though.
It goes the other way.
You walk in a room and you feel it, and then all of a sudden they wake up and you're like, was that loud? What happened? No, they feel
it. And that goes to the thing of like, you got to take those breaks, because if you are anxious, if you are tired, if you're anything, your baby feels it, and then they're uneasy and they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And let's say there's like a person that comes over and you don't feel comfortable with. So then you get anxious and the baby starts connecting that you are anxious, that whenever this person comes over, it's time to get anxious. And then they might start not liking that person just because things seem stressed, because you're passing that stress onto the baby. Like whatever the situation might be, just it's a coincidence, but you're communicating through this unknown way. And so
I think about how, real quick on that.
Yeah.
I think about how obvious it is sometimes when people's fears get passed on to their children. Like, I'm afraid of dogs, not me. I have 2 big dogs, but like somebody might be afraid of dogs. And then suddenly you see a child that, you're walking across the street and they're like, but it's because that's how mom feels and has expressed it as well. Or certain foods, just like, not afraid, but just like your like and dislike, all that. I feel like it does get passed on. And whether that's through like behavioral stuff that they see and they pick up on, or it's like the the feeling of what you're feeling with that, they pick up on that. I think that definitely goes hand in hand with that story. That's
Absolutely.
interesting.
Yeah, it's one of my like not necessarily like concerns, but something that like is in the back of my mind where I'm like, I don't want to pass on any of my fears or insecurities or just anything that holds me back that I'm uncomfortable with. I want her to be completely free of that.
Yeah.
And so it comes to the thing of like, oh, if I'm cold, maybe she's cold. And I'm like, no, no, we don't know that. We don't know that. So let's see, which temperature does she like? If I think, like coloring is cool or dancing is cool or reading a book or going outside is cool or I like gardening, I'm like, can't wait for her to garden with me. And then I'll pull back and I'm like, what if she doesn't like it? I don't want to push it on her.
I feel like that's another theme of motherhood is it's all like guessing. You're just kind of playing with little things here and there and being like, do they like this? Do they like that? Oh, and then all of a sudden you're doing something that you wouldn't even think that they like, and they start cracking up and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, you like this? And it's because you don't like it. Doesn't mean they don't like it, and being able to balance that and go, again, you're your own little human. Look
Yeah.
at you. Like you have your own personality, you have your own likes, you have your own feelings, but we are synced in a way that like if I am passing my negative stuff onto you, like I don't want to do that. I need to be aware of it, but not let it like stress you out, obviously, because then you're
Yeah.
stressors. The stresses of motherhood. Like,
Yeah. This is something that like I didn't know I would look so forward to, but seeing her learn and see new things where she gets excited about this new thing and you're just like, you think it's cool? I think this is cool now too. You like it? And like it's almost like you're reborn and because you're teaching them all new stuff. So you're kind of relearning new things
yeah.
and you get this new like outlook on something and you're just like, oh, I thought of it this one way. And you start like dealing with your own trauma almost. You're like, oh, perhaps I didn't like this or thought of this one thing as a bad thing. But now that I'm experiencing it through your eyes and explaining it to you as a matter of fact, instead of having an emotional thing attached to it, I can see past my trauma or negative feeling and see it in a new light. So you're like, you're also born as a mother and you're just like, I'm learning all these new things.
Yeah.
Myself.
There's such an innocence of things through a child's eyes that's like nothing can compare to that. And it is like you said, when you have a chance to see that and be a part of it and like witness it through their eyes for a little bit, it really kind of makes you feel reborn too, to be like, maybe that stuff wasn't that bad, like let's kind of rethink certain things that I used to stress about, or like look at how perfect and beautiful my baby sees the world, like let's not worry about all that other stuff sometimes and just be as they are. It's the most beautiful thing seeing them see things for the first time that are beautiful in the way, for me, what I think, like how God created it. And nature is the coolest thing for Ellington. She just like takes it all in, and I'm like, yes, that's how God intended it for her to be, and I love it. It's the greatest.
They're so innocent and it's so cool because sometimes I'm like she doesn't know like what a whale is. We're just like, oh, whales. Like we just know whales. A fence. We know what a fence is. And like sometimes I'll try, because if I try to put myself in her position, I'm like, all right, if I'm an alien and I just got here, like I don't know that this is a cup or a phone or a wall. Like and
imagine seeing animals for the first time and all different kinds of animals. That's the coolest thing.
It's so wild.
That's an animal, but why does that one have feathers? Or why is that one sticking its tongue out? Like they're all different, but they're not the people. Like, what is this? I love it.
I struggle right now because we're learning words and everything. And we call our dog, her name is Ziva, but we call her dog. And so Paisley now recognizes dog as dog. And I don't know if she sees it as her name or as the animal, but like when we try to point out other dogs, we're like dog. And she's like, no, dog's at home.
What is that?
That's not dog. Yeah. And so I just struggle when I like pointed to a book and I'm like, cow, what is the cow? Moo. And then I'm like, how do I tell you it's a picture of a cow, not a real cow?
Yeah.
And then she'll see a video. I'm like, that's cow too. And she's like, no, cow's in the picture book.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I guess
talking about the dog thing, I've been realizing that too, because so we have Thor and Millie, and
great
you know,
names.
you call your pets by their names like most of the time. And so I'm always like, oh, there's Thor, there's Thor, there's Thor. And then I'm also mixing up like there's a dog, and then we see another dog, and it's like there's a dog, there's a puppy, and it's like I need to pick one and stick with it because she's gonna be like, I don't know what you're saying, so I'm just not even gonna say that.
That's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, do you say the breed or the name? I'm similar with like, if we give her like
a kid's first word, German Shepherd, like,
oh my gosh, we're like with blocks or whatever, like balls. I'm like ball or block, and now we're kind of going to color. So I'm like, you know, I'll have all the different balls, so they're all balls, and I'm like green, and she's like, that's not what you said before.
like
I'm like blue, and then she's like, what are you talking about? Or like if a grandma babysits her, you know, she'll name an item different than what I say, and so I'm like, should I tell the grandma the name that I use, so then Paisley recognizes it, or should she learn the other way? Because she should learn both.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, it's that second guessing thing where I'm like, do I jump in? Do I just go in right now telling everything that I'm doing? I'm like, wait, no, like,
yeah,
I gotta let you learn in your own way.
They adapt and they learn, and they're gonna one day just be like, oh, there's multiple names for things. Like you are mom, you are Alisha, you are, you know, babe to your spouse or whatever.
Yeah.
And like learning that there's different names for things. But in the beginning, you are like, am I confusing you? I need to stick with one. Don't mix it up, you know?
Have you ever, like, I don't know if this happens to Ellington, but sometimes when I'll present a few things to Paisley, it looks like she kind of has like a little brain thing. She's like a little meltdown. She's like,
too many options.
I don't know. And it's like this little meltdown of like,
yeah. Ellie's learned to just like grab with both hands. Like I tried that awesome painting thing that you did, and I offer her 2 colors, and she's just like, I'm gonna do both. And I'm like, cool, we're doing both. And then like I pull up the next 2, and it's like she just hits them both. And I'm like, I don't know if we're making choices or if we're just excited about things in front of us, but it's awesome. I love it.
I like to see that like decision-making process. I try to incorporate it now to everything. At bath time, we got these like, it's like 100 pack of like these duckies for like $20, and they're all different ones. And so at bath time, Jake will bring like 2 animals or two different ones. And her face just like, she like looks at one, looks at the other, and then she like considers it, and then she's like, and I'm just like, I wish I knew what you were thinking, because it like there's a decision-making process.
Yeah.
And it looks like she's like, well, this one's blue, but this one looks cooler. This one's a little different. But what's over here? And she doesn't know what these items are. Like to not know what a rubber ducky is. Will it bite? Is it real? Is it like, do I eat it?
Bite me?
Yeah. It's like just not knowing, because half the time we start giving them stuff to eat, and we're like, eat, and then sometimes like, don't eat that, and they're just like, what do I eat? What do I not eat? Like, figure it out, mom.
That is the constant struggle in our house right now, and I'm sure that's pretty normal for most people with babies under 1. But I did that fun sticky note activity that you had, right? So I put them up, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be so great. Before I could even put them up, she's like ripping them down. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's what you're supposed to do, right? So then I put them a couple higher, a couple here, a couple there. And then I see her start, you know, doing the activity and learning and reaching and like picking and noticing the different colors. And I look away to go make breakfast or something. I turn back and 3 of the sticky notes are in her mouth. And I'm like, no, that was not part of the activity. And she just got like purple paper, like, hey, this is a yummy activity, Mom. I'm like, no, I guess we're done with this.
It's so silly because to video it, I had to like set her in the back while I put them up, because she just wants to hurry and go for it. Yeah. And after a while, she like figures it out, and then it's fun. And, you know, even if she pulls them up right away, it's still working on her, like her mental activity, her physical activity, like her core is getting stronger. She's standing, she's getting the balance. So it all works the whole time you're doing it. But I'm doing these baby activity videos, and then sometimes just to film them, it's such a, because she just wants to play with it and I want her to play with it. But then I'm like, I can't set it up because you're already going for it. And so sometimes it's such a process.
Yeah.
And I need to film the whole thing because she also put him in her mouth. And I feel like I need to like let people know, hey, make sure
this is real.
Yeah.
I was literally thinking, I was like, how is Paisley not putting these in her mouth? And my child within 2 minutes was like, this is the yummiest paper I've ever had.
No, it's definitely in her mouth.
It's like a hard line with the whole, what do you let them put in their mouth thing? Because our pediatrician told us early on, and like, love our pediatrician, completely trust her parenting advice. And she was like, when she gets to that stage where she starts putting things in her mouth, let her. Of course, don't let her put like dog food and nasty stuff and like stuff that can choke her. Like, let's use our brain, but let her put other things in her mouth because it's helping her get the texture of different things. And that's kind of like how they're exploring things right now. So when we're at home, you know, it's like, these are all of your things.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. Put it in your mouth. Now, then we go on play dates and I'm like, oh, that's somebody else's stuff. Like they may not want your saliva all over it. Yeah. So it's an interesting, like, let them learn and feel and then not.
I think it has to be like supervised
learning. Yeah.
I also think of it, this is kind of gross, but I'm like, I want her to get the different bacteria in her so then she can develop it slowly, because your body learns things that are good, things that are bad. And so getting that bacteria of everyday items, not that we're constantly putting things in our mouth, but like we know how to defend ourselves because everyone's like, this is dirty, that's dirty. And I don't know, I'm like, it's not that dirty. And I'd rather her get the bacteria and learn, like her body will learn how to protect her from it.
No, I agree. I think it's not helpful to sanitize everything all the time because then they never get that. And then it seems like a lot of times those babies or adults or anything who like have constantly been sanitized get sick more often because as soon as they catch a little bit of something, they're like, my body doesn't know how to handle it. So I'm all about that back game too.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm a little
doses.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm weary about sanitizing because like, I don't know, I'm all about like the ingredients and like things I'm learning recently. I'm like, I don't think that should be in anybody's body. I wouldn't. So then I'm like, I wouldn't clean an item with this because then you're going to lick it. And then that's going to
include when the whole pandemic happened and people were running out of hand sanitizer and they started like pushing out a lot of hand sanitizer because everyone needs it. I swear they were just putting like straight tequila and stuff. I would go to a restaurant and like, you know, do it as you walk in, do it as you walk out. And I'm like, I think I just got drunk from just like smelling the tequila hand sanitizer. Like suddenly it's like, what is in this? Is this better? Or, you know, let me just go wash my hands. I'm just going to wash my hands with soap and water. How about that?
Yeah. I had this mom I know, she posted her baby's pictures and this broke my heart. She, her baby got like chemical burns on her hands because there's so much alcohol and they just are constantly rubbing their hands to clean them in school. She took a picture and she posted it and they were just, I mean, torn. It was just red and blisters everywhere. And
that's heartbreaking. I can't imagine that because exactly what you're doing is trying to protect them when you're, you know, having them sanitize or having them do whatever it is. Every parent is like trying to just do their best and take care of their baby and make sure they're happy and healthy. And then for it to have an adverse effect and like affect them, that's heartbreaking because you know that's like the worst thing possible that mom could have experienced at that time, you know?
Okay, so this is how I felt about the stupid baby gates. Remember, so for people who don't know, we put up baby gates. We both have baby gate stories. This is the baby gate story.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to have to run. She's up. But I want to pick up on this baby gate story because this is going to go into a whole other.
Yeah, so let's end this now. We'll say bye, and then we can do another episode later, and then we'll just jump on where we left off.
You're awesome. Thank you
Okay.
for your flexibility. Okay.
Of course. Thank you for
And
joining
we'll
me.
figure it out. Yes.
Okay. Go
Bye,
see
guys.
Ellington. Bye.